Hello and welcome to another edition of Discover Love Academy. I am Jacqueline and I am the founder of this incredible group of amazing experts and coaches because I want to share with you the tips and tools to attract the relationship that you're looking for in so many levels. And I have to say, this is going to be, I already know it before we get started, as one of our top opportunities for you about soulmates. Because you get a chance to learn from Jennifer, who is truly an expert on the magnet energy of attracting your soulmate. So Jennifer, I want to introduce you to everybody and have them learn about what inspired you to move in this direction with all of your expertise and knowledge.
Well, first of all, hello everyone, and thank you, Jacqueline, so much for having me here. I really appreciate the opportunity. What inspired me to become a coach and begin teaching people the journey of how to become absolutely magnetic for your soulmate was actually my own experience with struggling with dating and relationships for about 20 years, and then going through a transformational process, and now coming out on the other side, being blissfully married to a man I consider to be my soulmate, the love of my life, and just the everyday joy that we experience within the relationship. It's kind of like if you went out to, the best movie ever, and like you just felt like everybody needed to see this because it would change their life. You would just feel like, I have to tell everybody about this. Like, nobody should be struggling in relationships anymore because there is another way, there's a better way. It doesn't have to be a struggle. And I truly believe that anybody who has the seed of desire in their heart to find their soulmate and be in that type of intimate partnership can have that if they're willing to, maybe look at things a little differently, try some transformational tools, and get the support that they need to transform their love life from wherever it is, no matter how hopeless or devastated they might feel now. I truly believe that it's possible for anybody to have transformation in this area if they're willing to look at things differently and implement the tools that they need to in order to move forward. And first, of course, attract the person. And then, of course, the next step is to actually create a conscious and happy relationship and keep that relationship at that high level.
You are nailing it exactly, darling. I am so glad you are bringing up the fact that you have to make changes. People keep thinking that this is just a numbers game. If I just go out on enough dates, I'm going to find my person and I'll just know because everything else is perfect. I'm so great on my dates. And I hear this all the time. As a professional matchmaker for so many years, I just really want people to understand it's not a numbers game. My clients that do the work need far less match introductions. So tell me a little bit about what you feel on understanding the changes that you need to make. What are some of those initial steps to really attract that person, but also start out with a better foundation for that relationship?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad that you brought up the numbers game because, as you know, I share that philosophy with you. And the reason I share that philosophy is because I was the queen of thinking it was a numbers game. I have gone out in my life prior to meeting my husband. I went out on over 200 first dates because I was so determined to find my partner. I know, right?
Oh my goodness, darling, you just make me go, ow!
It was painful. It was an enormous amount of time, stress, anxiety, and energy that nobody should have to go through. But I did learn so much about what it actually takes to become what I call a magnet for your soulmate. And that's where they're just going to find you. You don't have to go out and be on 6 apps. Maybe you're led to someone like a matchmaker. Maybe your inspiration tells you, talk to this person. There might be. I think we'll meet our person everybody will meet their person in a different way. And I believe if we're listening to our guidance, we'll know exactly what that path is. Maybe it's that coach, or maybe it's that matchmaker, or maybe it's just going to the grocery store on Sunday and he's going to be there. Right. And so we need to be able to all listen to our inner guidance, which, going on to that, it was actually part of the path. So at a certain point, after a particularly devastating breakup, I realized that this number game thing just wasn't working for me. Meaning, how many more dates did I have to go out on? I'd been dating for 20 years. I felt like Charlotte from Sex and the City. Like, where is he already? And at a certain point, I realized it really came down to, I can't go through another heartbreak. I didn't honestly didn't think I would survive it. And I thought, well, you know, they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And what I'm doing is insane, because the pattern seems to be repeating, meaning the faces would change, the names would change, you know, how I met them changed, but the end result for a lot of it seemed to feel the same to me. And that was my first clue that, maybe this is a pattern that's actually coming from inside of me. Maybe there's something going on within me that's causing me to attract and create what I'm attracting and creating in the relationships that I'm having. So at that point, I actually took a dating hiatus and just decided to do some exploration of what might be causing this pattern, because I could no longer deny that I had that pattern. And so to answer your question, sometimes the answer is to look without, look externally. And sometimes we need to be going within, and we need to be looking at, first of all, do we have a pattern? Is there a theme that we can see in all of our past relationships, or the people we've dated, or even the types of people we're attracting, or even the types of people we're not attracting? We can a lot of times see there's a theme recurring. And so then, the next step is to be willing to just get curious about that. Get curious about, why do I always attract emotionally unavailable men? Or why do I only attract either men that are, safe to me but boring, or men that are, super hot to me and exciting but are destined to break my heart, right? Usually there are reasons going on within us that's why we're attracted to that, or that's what we're allowing ourselves to experience, if that makes sense. And I do believe at the end of the day, it's actually all for our growth, and none of it can actually be bad. But there's ways of making it much less stressful and much less anxiety producing. And so that's when that's really my intention for the messages I put out and the people I work with, is just to have a sense of ease about this process of finding the right partner. It doesn't have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to be 200 dates that just feel like they're sucking the life out of you, and feeling like you're getting trampled every Friday night. It doesn't have to feel like that. It can feel like this organic process where you're staying in tune with yourself, and you're looking at any beliefs that you need to maybe rewrite or reframe. You're doing the inner healing work that you need to, so that you're truly available for love, that your heart is truly open, and you've got some basic understanding of what your partner needs. And of course that will vary greatly by individual, but there are some things that are pretty universal among the genders, that once you know them, can at least be a nice jumping off point for a very high level conversation, so that you can really understand your partner. And so Jacqueline, this is a long conversation. You and I could talk about this like for the next 5 hours at least. But
you are so absolutely right, Jennifer. There are so many points that you're bringing up, that this is an evolution. It's a work in progress. It's always about us finding that next little piece of knowledge that moves a client forward, and the client actually gets that piece and is ready to take the next steps. Now, you bring up about patterns, and I think this is something where people don't always realize that they're dating the same type of person. They just have a different name. I refer to it as the paper doll theory. I feel like they cut out another paper doll and just put in a different one in, but they're not really dating a better version of what they need. They're not moving in a better direction. What are some of the signs that you've seen with your amazing clients when they started to notice patterns? What are some of those little details that just kind of keep repeating in people's tendencies to date the wrong person over and over? But they might have a different name. They might have a different look, but they're still really the same person, and they're just repeating the pattern.
Well, actually, in my experience, it really doesn't take, usually that's something that, if I'm just being very transparent, but usually it will discover on the first session. Either they'll tell me I have the pattern, or I'll ask them about their last, few relationships, and they'll tell me, and then I'll be able to see, oh, there's a theme here. And, once we identify the pattern, then we just get to work at identifying what I call the root cause. The pattern, because there's a reason that pattern is in place. So the pattern is the effect, it's not the cause. And so what I'm interested in,
love it. Yeah, I love that comment, because people try to give too much power to that, but it's really in the way that you're looking at it is so accurate. Thank you, Jennifer.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm very interested in root causes, and the reason that I'm interested in, I mean, the reason I got started on this path was because for me it was sort of like the aha awakening enlightenment moment where when for me personally, when I was going through that process, when my root causes were identified, suddenly it all makes sense. Like suddenly it was not just I wasn't this random hapless victim of the universe. Suddenly I understood exactly what was going on within me. It was causing me to attract the people I was attracting and and to be treated the way that I was getting treated. And what's great about that is it sounds, it can sound maybe a little ominous at first, but actually it's great news, because what happens is when you understand that on a lot of levels, your life is happening from you and not to you, it puts you back in the position of being powerful. It gives you the power back instead of like being a hapless leaf being, blown around in the universe. You realize that, hey, wait a minute, I am a co-creator. I do have some opportunity to influence tremendously what goes on in my life. Now, I got to say this because I know whenever this conversation starts, there's always a few people who get triggered because they're like, are you saying that it's my fault that I'm in the situation that I'm in? And what I want to say about that is absolutely not. Is absolutely not your fault. Most of what I call your programming happened before the age of 7 years old. How could it possibly be your fault? It is not your fault. That being said, as responsible adults, because I believe we're responsible, right? As a responsible adult, we're the only persons who can be willing to transform the pattern so that moving forward, we don't have to stay stuck in that pattern. We can decide, you know what, I don't want to attract emotionally unavailable men. I want a man who's emotionally available and is there for me and supports me and is there when I need him. And I know that you can have that. But you have to be willing to look at what is the cause of the reason that I was attracting emotionally unavailable men in the first place. There's usually a reason.
You are so right. And this actually applies to men too, when they're attracting a woman, that they are misattracting, because there's always that, what's the core reason? And just as with my clients, I love that it's the same thing for you. It doesn't take much to have that breakthrough of like, oh my goodness, I totally have a pattern. Or you think your pattern's one thing, and then you start talking to an expert and you're like, oh, actually, it's even more so this. And we need to peel back these layers to get that raw energy. And it really stands out in what you're saying is that once people understand they have the power to make the change, that it's not about placing blame or anything on a negative level, because every experience, even the hardest ones, as long as you're learning from it, you're growing. So in that light of thinking about it that way, what are the main characteristics that are stopping us from really attracting the right person? What is it that's, blocking or denying us from attracting the person that we so know we're supposed to be with?
Well, there are three things that stand out to me, and there could be a number of things. I mean, every situation is different, but there are three there are a lot of themes that I see within the people that I work with. I'm sure you probably have the same thing. And so one of the number one things I see is that I see that there's a tendency to focus on the wrong thing or reason, meaning a lot of women come to me and they think, well, I need to lose weight, or, I'm too old to find love, or, men and women will both say, I'm not where I want to be in my career or financially. And I just laugh. And I'll tell you why I laugh, because when I met my husband, I was at my highest weight I'd ever been. I was beyond broke. I was actually in quite a bit of debt at that time. And so I wasn't in ideal conditions at all on the outside, on paper, to find love. Like, I wasn't in those conditions. However, I had been doing my heart work. I had been, forgiving people that had wronged me. I had been, working on owning and knowing my worthiness as a soul, not because I had a certain status career-wise or, was a perfect size 2 or, any of those things, but because I just knew that, I was aligning with the truth of the universe, which is that we all have worth because we exist, period. And that's sort of like a, I think on some levels people know that, but on a lot of levels we don't actually practice that. We don't actually live our lives just like knowing that we have worth because we woke up. Like, you don't have to do things perfectly. And that's the thing, a big thing is you don't have to be perfect. or even in a perfect situation to find love. And so I find people focusing on, women in particular focus on their physical beauty because in our culture it's so revered. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, be your best self. Absolutely. Get a makeover. We all feel better when we look good. But those aren't the reasons you haven't met. If you're looking for what I would call a soulmate, that's not the reason you haven't met your soulmate. Your soulmate will love you even if you have cancer, even if you're down and out. My husband was unemployed when I met him, right? He's gainfully employed now. He just got another promotion and he's a partner in this business. We're doing very well together. But when we met, it was a coming together of our souls, not everything perfect on paper. It was two individuals who could meet each other where they're at and be genuine and be vulnerable with each other. And so what I notice is there's a lot of emphasis on the external things on paper, but not a lot of emphasis on truly being able to be vulnerable and know your worth just because you exist, even with whatever flaws you think you have, if that makes sense. So
it totally makes sense. And I'm really glad you're bringing this up because I believe so strongly that people hide behind those excuses. And to hear you affirm that is so powerful. And when I'm matchmaking clients, those that do the work, you move along, and those that don't. And it's not a negative to those that don't. It's just a reaffirmation that no matter where you are in life, you have the power to do the inner work. You have the power to really get at the soul level so that, you could have easily looked at your future husband, now husband, and gone, oh, you're unemployed, I can't go out with you. And I hear people say things like that. But, we're in between certain times in our lives that the door is open for other opportunities. So you're really showing such a great example that you two could recognize each other on a soul level, regardless of all the little checklists that people add on their agenda when searching for somebody. So you have made that very clear in such a very specific way that helps our listeners that are right now listening going, oh shoot, so that excuse I've been using isn't really valid. And honestly, it's not really fair to the person. So what are some of the other characteristics that you've noticed that really do derail that journey to finding your person who's looking for you right now too?
I want to go into those, but my intuition is bugging me to say something about that last one. May I
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
It wanted me to, it basically, so the reason that I was okay with my husband not being employed at the moment, the main reason is because I had gone to this soulmate manifestation workshop, because I used to do a lot of that type of stuff when I was single. And at that time of the workshop, I was dating another man who I thought maybe was my soulmate because we'd been together on and off for years. And one of the problems I had with him was that he was not financially stable ever. And so I asked the teacher of the workshop, I said, what if you think someone is your soulmate, but they're not financially stable and that really bothers you? What do you do? And I will never forget her answer. She said, I have known people, soulmate couples who have come together when they were like flat broke or even homeless, and they are now millionaires because of the synergy that happens in a soulmate type of relationship. Meaning in a soulmate relationship, you will uplift each other. You will have support. You will have a soft place to land at the end of the day. I don't know about you guys, but for me, if I'm going to do a business venture of any type, that's what I want at the end of the day. And I can say firsthand, my current business is, don't think I'm bragging, I'm just sharing for illustration. My current business is the most successful business I've ever had. And I think one of the reasons is because I have my husband hanging out in my house, keeping my vibe up. He's loving on me, sex life is pretty good. There's a lot of happiness and joy. And so what happens is that spills out into every other area of my life. And so one of the reasons I love being a soulmate coach is because I know that when you have the right relationship, when you're truly with the right person, most likely every other area of your life is going to improve as well. And so
I love that you're saying this. This is like totally just warming my heart, darling, because this is the part where people get so caught up in how strong they are on their own, how independent, which is still amazing. But there's something about it when the right souls find each other and that combusting energy and a support system. It's going back a lot to the roots of why do you want a relationship? Why do you want a partner? When you really want a partner to enhance and enrich your life, you're not looking for someone to complete you, but the compliments are phenomenal. So you're really bringing up some very important topics that I feel our listeners that are going right now, they're writing as fast as they can on the paper and pen or typing notes into their computer because they're realizing, hold on, how much greater of an existence could I have if I was having that person in my space sharing and really turning up the volume on your life.
Yeah. It's pretty, I had heard it in theory, but to see it playing out in my life is, it just really inspires me, to spread this message. And, on that independence thing, there's nothing wrong with knowing you can survive on your own. I think some of us need to know that. I know I needed to know that because honestly, I didn't always have people supporting me in my life, the people that I thought that should be. And so I felt this sort of need to be self-reliant. And then there was a certain point where I realized, you know what, I can take care of myself. And then I was like, well, wait, but I'm lonely. And I think I could be having more fun. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting companionship. We are social creatures. Monkeys that don't have anybody around them can die. Babies don't, babies, mammals of all type, if they don't have people around them, they die. So there's nothing wrong with admitting like, hey, I can handle myself and survive, but I'm really longing for companionship. And I think sometimes just admitting that can sort of open some space for people and relax them, because I think there's maybe a little too much emphasis on that independent thing because we are social creatures, and I think interdependence is a better goal, where we can take care of ourselves, we're responsible for our own happiness, but we're open to sharing and letting someone in to be in our lives. And as long as it's a good match for you and they're the right person, it can only benefit you.
Well said, because when you talk about that connection and you talk about the benefits and you say you're not losing yourself at all in this, you're just getting a better version. Plus, you're also enhancing the other person's life when you're bringing that combination together. And that really makes me think about a question I've been curious about as we're talking. What does soulmate mean to you and to your amazing clients? That word can be used in such a broad term. It can be used as an excuse to stay away. It can be a use to stay with the wrong person too long. She's like, oh no, I already said they were my soulmate, so I have to stay. So what does it really mean to find your true soulmate?
And I love the fact that you just use the words true soulmate, because that is the word that I use. Well, I do believe there's lots of different types of soulmates, right? So, you can Google soulmates and you'll see sites that will tell you like, oh, there's karmic soulmates and twin flame and all these different things. Personally, I definitely believe in karmic soulmates because I just know certain men came into my life to crack me open and have me learn certain things about myself or my preferences, or crack me open to be willing to do some healing work, if that makes sense. I do believe certain people come into our life for a reason, but that reason isn't necessarily long-term partnership or life partner. What I consider to be a true soulmate is the person who is best suited for our personal purpose on the planet and our journey in this lifetime. So when I talk about soulmate, if I look at some of the other guys I could have ended up with, I don't know that I'd be doing this work if I was with them. And, let's fast forward to today. Here I am with my husband. So many of you can see me because I have light on my face. I have olive medium skin, so I need light when I'm on camera. Well, my husband, set up the lighting for me today. And he's constantly there supporting me in this purpose that I have of bringing illumination and inspiration to as many people as I can. And there's no tension about, I don't say there's no tension ever, because we're human beings and tension is a natural byproduct of human relationships. But on a core level, he's happy to support me in this journey. He's thrilled to support me in this journey. He's proud of me for what I'm doing on this journey. He's there with me. He supports it. We knew at least I did, from within a week of meeting him, I knew we were going to be like writing a book, building a business. I could just feel it. I knew that we were coming together, not only for our own joy, to expand our own joy, but to help expand the joy of those around us. And I don't know about you, Jacqueline, but for me, every time I'm around a soulmate couple, like there's like this like happy bubble of energy that comes at you from these people, even just being in a room with them. You know, I remember the first time I was in the room with a soulmate couple, and I was like blown away by it. And I was like, wow, this is why people get married. I honestly didn't understand why people got married before that, because I was like, oh, I want my freedom. I want to be able to go here, and I don't want someone to, I don't have to answer to anybody. You know, I was kind of in that, you know, I was an artist. I wanted my freedom. I wanted to just, you know, travel around and create stuff. So anyway, so going back to the point is I do believe a true soulmate is a person that is best suited for you with your purpose and your journey on this lifetime. I do think there could be multiple, you know, I don't think there's just one, and if they die, you're SOL. I don't think that. I think that wherever you are right now on your journey, there is the best one for you right now in this moment. And it could be that you're meant to spend 50 years with them, or maybe you're only meant to spend 5 years with them. But I do believe, I'm so hesitant to say this because I just hated it when people told me this when I was single, but I do believe you'll know it when you find it.
You know, I actually really believe that you will know it. And I do believe what you're saying is important for people to give the freedom for the soulmate to be revealed and not put such an expiration date, not such a feeling that it has to be all of these things. And I love how you talk about the energy of when you see soulmates together. As a matchmaker, I'm also spiritually gifted. And so a lot of times when I'm meeting with a client, I'll get a vision of the person they're supposed to be with, introduce them, and I'm still celebrating their anniversaries with them. And it's because of that fact that I knew energetically those two people had to be together. They trusted my professionalism, but they also trusted their heart. They were choosing to be ready to be in a relationship. And it feels very strongly that as you are talking to people, yes, you're leading an example for others to follow, but you're living in your highest essence. So therefore, that hope is real because you have that truth. And then as you're talking about the work that you do with people is really taking them from that place of, hey, let's get rid of the excuses. Let's actually own what we can do and then recognize it when it happens. And I really do believe a lot of people have said that often when they later look back, yeah, there was just something about him or her, and I just knew it. So it's wonderful to hear that from you too. I'm very thankful just to give people that assurance that there's going to be that little knock on your shoulder or a smack on the head when you meet your person and you're like, hold on, that is so powerful. And building your lives together has been really, really good. And I think that that's part of the obstacles that people have to get to the point of believing it's possible is to actually witness people in that essence. But what do you think are some of the things that really just kind of derail people from choosing the life of having this abundance because of their past or how they're choosing to date or making room? You've brought up some really good key points. So I'm wondering if there's some other points that have made it to where people hit that kind of that wall where they're like, I've got to do this differently. And I know that that's, you know, when they're learning and listening, but what are some of those key points that really just kind of a shift that you're just ready? Like, have you seen, do you have some stories of clients that you've worked with that have had some specific breakthroughs that our wonderful listeners will be able to relate to?
Yes. That was a lot there, so I'm going to just kind of breathe here and try to get through as much of it as I can. Okay, so one of the things I'm going to breeze through, and then if you want to come back to it, we can, because I want to get to the third point, because the third point's my favorite one to talk about, because it's the one that was like the big aha moment for me. So the second thing that I notice a lot that can keep people from attracting, actually it won't keep people as much from attracting the right partner, although it can, as it will create problems once they're in the relationship. And that is something I mentioned earlier, which is people not having a good enough understanding of what the opposite sex needs. In the sense that men and women are very different. You know, we are, as souls, we are, you know, there is no gender, but once we incarnate into a human body, oh boy, we are subject to a whole bunch of other mechanisms going on that most people don't really understand. We have different biochemistries, different physiologies, we have different instincts. And a lot of times people get offended by the behavior of the opposite sex instead of understanding it. And understanding the differences in how, I'm going to use if I was getting really technical, I'd say hunter versus gatherer energy, but I think most people relate better to masculine and feminine energy. And we all have, varying degrees of that. But it's really important to understand how masculine and feminine energy operates so that, when your partner does something and you think that they're insulting you and they're actually not, it's important to understand what's actually going on and not be offended by the behavior of the opposite sex, but instead understand it as a step towards creating partnership, because that is the potential that exists when we truly understand the opposite sex and work with their instincts and work with their tendencies and how they're wired, instead of trying to make them something they're not. It's like if you went up to your dog and you're like, meow, why aren't you meowing? Why do you always bark? Could you stop barking? It's so annoying. Like, everybody should meow. and that's kind of a funny example, but on a lot of levels, that's kind of what people are doing. They're, men are going, why are you so emotional? Women are going, why can't you pick up your socks on the floor? And there are reasons why men don't always pick up their socks on the floor and why women are emotional. And it doesn't make us wrong. One of my mentors that asked this question, which it just kills me every time, which is, what if nobody's misbehaving?
Oh, I love that. That's such a good question. And that's actually, like, write that down, our amazing listeners. Yeah. Because we do think in that way. Thank you.
Sure. No, what if nobody's misbehaving? What if everybody's just being who they are and we need to learn to work with that person? So that's that. Can I go on to the third thing now?
Yes, please. I'm very curious about your third. This is so good.
And I hope it answers the question, because honestly, I may not exactly remember the question, but I'm just going to go with this. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely. No, you're right on a roll. This is what it's all about.
Okay. So what was your question, actually? Because I want to make sure I answer it properly in the context of your question.
It's really kind of, and it's about, what is that part that, people keep finding is their block, as you're talking about your own client stories and journeys you've done with clients. What is it that's consistently coming up, or breakthroughs that people are having? Those relatable stories are so great for our listeners, because as you're saying your stories, it helps people to understand, hey, if that happened to that person, this might just happen for me.
Okay, great. So we already touched upon this, but I'm going to do a deeper dive into it. So the number one breakthrough that I had that transformed my love life, and the number one breakthrough that has helped most of my clients go from either, not dating at all or having a pattern to, becoming man and woman magnets and ultimately meeting the partner, is understanding what alignment is. And so for those of you that haven't heard that term, I'll define it as I best understand it. Alignment is when what you think, what you feel, what you do, and you say are all working together for a common goal in harmony. It's not you're saying one thing but doing another. You're not thinking one thing but feeling another. What happens when we have a split there is that it can feel like we've got one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas, and that's called split energy. When a part of you, for example, wants to be in a relationship, but another part of you is like, well, if I'm in a relationship, maybe I'm going to lose my voice and my freedom, and I'm going to have to be barefoot in the kitchen, and I won't get to pursue my art career. And, we start going on this whole tangent of the negative consequences that could happen if we're actually in the intimate, committed partnership we want. Now, here's the thing that is sort of the doozy here, is what a lot of people don't realize is that 95 to 99% of the stuff that's causing that split energy is hidden in the subconscious and unconscious mind below the level of awareness, meaning people don't even know what they don't know that's preventing them from finding their soulmate. And so most of the biggest breakthroughs that I see with my clients are when we do this work, where we first identify what I call the hidden blocks or hidden love blocks that are keeping them from meeting their soulmate. Now, once we do that, the kind of results people will have, I will tell you, with both men and women, immediately they become magnets for the opposite sex. I'll give you one example. I was working with a woman in her late 40s. She was on 3 different internet sites, but yet had not been on a date in 8 months. She's like, I can't get a man to ask me out. She's like, I think I'm too old. I'm the wrong race. I'm this. She had all these reasons why she might not be good enough or may not be worthy. So we worked through these. We identified them all and did the transformational work on them. And then a month later, she sends me a text. She's like, you're not going to believe what happened to me today. I said, well, try me. She said, I was walking down the street And not one, not two, but three handsome men, quality, attractive, handsome men, stopped me on the street to ask for my phone number. Like, who does that anymore? Like, most people can't even get their person to take them to coffee. And here are men like, you know, stopping on the street saying, "You're beautiful. Can I please get your phone number?" Because she becomes so magnetically attractive is the phrase I'm seeking. Now, I want to reassure you that she did not have plastic surgery. She did not lose weight. She didn't even get a new outfit or have a makeover, but her energy shifted. Her attitudes towards men shifted. Her attitude towards herself shifted. She started owning and knowing her inherent worthiness. And what happened was people started showing up to reflect that back to her. And so that's what's possible. And then, of course, you know, a good portion of these people meet their someone within a pretty short time. I mean, you know, it can vary. I mean, some people meet them within 3 months, some people take 6 months, some people 9. But I can tell you that right off the bat, people are they're meeting better quality people, and they're attracting them in easily and organically to where these people are just, you know, it's like the opposite sex just can't stay away from them. So they become irresistible, basically. Irresistibly magnetic. So,
you know, that is the way you should be, is irresistibly magnetic. And I love that you bring it up, because you're also bringing in the fact that there isn't something that, okay, I did this much weight loss, I did this much of, you know, new outfit, new job, new neighborhood, new. It's, you owned it. She became a deeper part of herself. She also projected that energy, but she also was receptive to that energy. I take clients out flirting all the time, and they're like, "What? That guy's hitting on me? That girl's hitting on me? What?" And they're looking all over, and they're completely oblivious. So the fact that you are inspiring and educating and informing and enlightening these people to be more aware when the opportunity is there is huge, because I believe very much like you do that there are opportunities all of the time. So I love that story.
And you're touching on such a good point, is that when we have these hidden love blocks, is they show up as big, fat blind spots. I've had, touching on your point, I was out with one of my girlfriends who's looking for her partner. She's been single for a long time. And we went out walking, and she always complains to me how, like, men don't ask her out and men don't look at her, you know, the same story. And we're walking, and one day, and one man walks by her, totally checks her out. She completely ignores him. And then we got to the stoplight. Another guy, like, looks right at her, right over my head, because she's really tall and really short. Looks right at her because he's looking up, right? And he says, "Hi, how you doing today?" And she just completely ignored him. So we get up to the stoplight, and I'm like, "Friend, what was that about?" And she says, "What was what about?" I said, "You didn't see the two attractive men that totally just tried to connect with you?" She goes, "What men?" She literally didn't even see them, because she has a belief that she's too old to find love. And so what it shows up as literally like a blinder. She can't even, because she believes that, you know, projection makes perception, right? So we're projecting out our beliefs, and so she can't even see it when a man is trying to flirt with her, because she doesn't believe that's possible. So it literally just, like, somehow in her universe, it doesn't even exist. But I'm sitting there, you know, I know that there are attractive men everywhere. I know that she's attractive. I know that she's worthy. I know that they're worthy. So I'm just seeing all these possibilities, but she's not seeing it at all. And I do think that that's why it's so important to question our limiting beliefs, to get in there and go, is it really true that I'm too old to find love? You know, I just posted an article on one of my sites about a 94, a lot of people probably heard this, about that 98-year-old woman who married a 94-year-old man. You know, you're never too old to find love, unless you think you're too old to find love. Then it might limit you, right? But in actuality, you're never too old to find love. You're never too overweight. You're never too broke. You're never too, you know, damaged. You're never too, you know, your past could never be bad enough to prevent you from finding love, if you're willing to, as you said so eloquently, to be open to it, and to realize that you're worthy of receiving that.
You're very, very accurate on this, Jennifer, because when people allow this to happen, their person can show up, but their person's been wondering where they are. So it's worth it to do the work. It's worth it to step up. It's worth it to start noticing, because it's the greatest compliment, whether you're interested in that person or not, just to turn and be like, acknowledging of them, you're going to give them a boost too. So it's mutual gratification on all ends. And oh my gosh, what if that is your person and you have a great story to tell about your new love story? But it is about opening yourself, being more clear. And the soulmate connection is such a high, great gift that you can give to yourself and to one another. So as we're just about to run out of time, what are some of the things you'd like to just tie up this amazing conversation into a bow so that our incredible listeners that are feverishly taking notes, starting to go, oh, I've used those excuses, these are my blocks. What can they start to do to take action now to move themselves forward on their love journey?
Well, first and foremost, I would invite them to just open up to the possibility that there's nothing that has happened to them or that they think they are that could make them unworthy of finding love. First and foremost is being open to the possibility of being able to own their worthiness, like their inherent worthiness, that they are lovable as they are, and that, you know, the only thing stopping them from finding love is if they're not willing to look and examine their, what I call limiting beliefs about their lovability and their ability to find love. So that's the first thing. You know, again, a lot of these aren't conscious, but many of them will be. So I would say, you know, sit down, write a list of all the reasons why you think you're not lovable, and then ask the question, is this really true? And then ask, is it absolutely 100% true? And then ask, well, how do I feel when I have that thought that I'm too old for love? Oh, I don't feel that good. Well, then maybe you could choose a better feeling thought, like I'm open and willing to find love. You know, and what I want to say on that note is, you don't have to do this perfectly, and you don't have to go from A to Z automatically. What's necessary right now is for you to be willing to crack open the door. A possibility. Just be willing. You don't have to open the door wide. That might feel scary for you, but just be willing to just like open the door a little bit. Just have a little willingness for, you know, the universe to do its magic with you. I mean, I gotta say this. I was thinking about this today. Something I'm going to be teaching in one of my courses this week is, I know so many people have trouble believing that a soulmate exists for them, or that they're going to find their soulmate. Like, I just hear the doubt, like, oh, I'm 40. Like, what if I'm never going to find them? And one thing that kind of occurred to me is, like, you know, I've been spending a lot of time in nature lately. And what I love about nature is it's pretty hard to deny the magnificence of whatever force created the planet when you're out in nature. You know, when you go to the Grand Canyon, or you go to Hawaii, or, you know, even you just go to the beach somewhere, it's kind of hard to deny the awesomeness and magnificence. Well, guess what? That same force that created you and created your your future partner. So there is a sense of surrender into the possibility that can really help accelerate the process. And also, you're just going to feel a lot calmer and more peaceful. You're not going to be so anxious all the time, going, why hasn't my guy shown up yet, or why hasn't my woman shown up yet? So that's something I wanted to say. And I guess my last piece I would love to leave them with is, this doesn't have to be a struggle. You know, I struggled for 20 years with dating because I was stubborn and independent, and I thought I could do it on my own. And I thought there was something, you know, some weakness in needing help from a professional. And if I had known how ridiculously easy this process can be, as you touched on, which I loved, how easy this process can be when you have A, the right mindset, which is willingness, B, the right tools, which, you know, I'm sure Jacqueline has them, I have them, all the love coaches in the academy have them. You have the right tools, right? And then you have the right support system. It can be very easy. It can be sort of just like learning to knit or something. It doesn't necessarily have to be this grueling process. Yeah, okay, so, you know, maybe you have a couple of uncomfortable feelings come up, but when you have the right support, you move through that very quickly. It's not like you're staying, you know, in this grief or whatever for months. You'll have someone to help you just boom, 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 move through it, so you can go on to the next thing, you release it, you let it go. And so I would say is, if you've been struggling with this for a long time, you know, there's no shame at all and getting some support. The reason you hire a professional is to accelerate the progress, because you don't want to wait another 20 years. Don't be stubborn like me and have to go on 200 first dates before you get it. That's what I want to leave you with.
That is absolutely what we need to be reminded of. Okay, so the vow is, none of you guys that are listening right now go on 200 first dates. Just listen. We've all figured it out ahead of time. But the reality comes back to the fact that it's a choice. Just as you say, what if I can never find my person? It's the same thing as, but what if you do? What if you find the love of your life? And that is why I am so passionate about sharing these amazing experts with our Discover Love Academy. And the exciting thing is that you're going to be receiving a fabulous gift from Jennifer right after this video. And it's about taking you to the next level. What I find that is so important is that you can listen to us right now and you can be taking great notes, but now it's time to put this information into action. And next quarter, we're going to get even more information, and I can hardly wait to share that. So thank you to everybody who's been listening. Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your expertise, your time, and your talents to inspire really finding your soulmate that is right for you at this time in your life, and to look forward to hearing the many success stories that come from all of this. Take care, and I look forward to the next time we meet up, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to connect with you all. See you next time.